Hey there, you have stumbled upon the In Kinship podcast. I'm so glad you're here. This is the inaugural episode. I want to spend just a minute telling you about where I see this show going. The In Kinship podcast is a podcast for makers who crave an authentic, vibrant life on their own terms. Now, what on earth does that mean, right? Let me answer that by telling you where I hope this goes. In this podcast, I'm going to share my story and my thoughts. I'm going to talk to you about your story, and I'm going to interview other makers about their path. My goal with this is to be inspired by somebody else's take on life, to be inspired by the amazing things that other people are doing, but mostly to see how, through the lens of creativity, people are able to add more joy to their lives. Now, anyone can add more joy to their lives, I think, by doing things that bring them joy. Things like starting every morning with a journal and a little bit of meditation, or working out, or going for a long walk after work with a good friend, or reading books in bed before going to sleep every night. For each person, that's going to be unique, what it is that brings vibrancy and joy to their life. But I believe that those things are small, generally, and they're everyday choices. And I think that we all have the ability to bring more of that into our lives. We all have a different hand we've been dealt in life, for sure. But we have more control, if you will. We have more ability to bring in the things that bring us joy. And those small choices, make big change. And I want to show that through makers' lives, through makers' stories. So we're going to talk to makers about what they love to make and how that brings joy to their life. But we're also going to talk about the different practices that they connect with or that they commit to in their lives that really enhance their life. Several years ago, probably a decade or more, I read a book called Julie and Julia. You've probably heard of the movie. It was written by Julie Powell. That book really opened my eyes to the simplicity of happiness. This is my synopsis of it, but she was existing in this sort of dull and listless life. And she decided to make a project for herself. So that project was to cook her way through every recipe in Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking. This is an arbitrary project, right? Nobody was going to be saved by this project. It wasn't a great big art installation that was going to be seen by millions. It was none of those things. It was a simple project she gave herself to add a little bit of zest and a little bit of passion and a little bit of challenge into her life. And I love that that's what it did. It enhanced her life in this simple way. And it was such a small thing. And I thought to myself, anyone could add something like that to their lives. Anyone at all. And I loved how that opened up my viewpoint of what joy and happiness could look like. And so this podcast is exploring that concept. And it's also about really talking to makers and exploring how they master what it is they're doing, how they have mastery over their craft, and also fine-tuning their lives in some ways. We can't control our circumstances, but we do have control over our experience. And I think that hearing other people's stories and getting excited by what they're doing is going to enhance my life and hopefully enhance yours as well. So that really, in a 4-minute nutshell, is my intention for this podcast. This first show, I'm going to share how I became a garment maker. I'm a maker of all different things, but garment making has been a consistent passion in my life for probably about 15 years now. And so I'm going to share how that began, and I'm going to share a little bit about what I feel about it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. Hey there. You're listening to the In Kinship podcast, a podcast for makers who crave an intentional, authentic, vibrant life on their own terms. And I'm your host, Tina Vandenberg. Let's get started. This episode is sponsored by My Lovely Muse. Christina at My Lovely Muse makes beautiful and useful, eco-conscious disposable housewares. Things like cloth napkins and beeswax wraps and reusable snack and sandwich bags and more. We're going to talk about it more in the middle of the podcast, but I'm really grateful to have her support and to be able to share what she's doing in the world with all of you. You can find Christina at mylovelymuse.com. And now, on to our episode. My name is Tina, and I'm the founder of Kinship Handwork, which is a business where I teach women how to sew clothing, specifically clothing that they love, because I have a vital interest in having people feel lit up and empowered. And I think one of the ways of doing that is creating things that you absolutely adore. And I have some techniques for getting there that I'd like to share with people. So I've got some online courses. I teach some in person here in Northern Michigan, where I live. And I also have a couple of sewing retreats on Mackinac Island every year, which are amazing, by the way, because the sewing retreats not only incorporate my love of sewing and my love of creating a garment that fits your beautiful body just as it is, but it also allows me to bring in a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of intention, a little bit of journaling and women circling together. And that has been really vital to me as well. So the retreats are kind of this beautiful mix of all the things that I want to do in the world, all the things that make my life vibrant, and all the things that I want to talk about here on the podcast. And I should say, not just me, I want to talk to all different kind of makers. I want to talk about what their journey looks like, because it may look very different than mine. And I want us to explore that. I want us to see what that looks like and see how it might spark vibrancy in our own lives on our own terms. And so I'm excited to have you on this journey with me. I've been a maker my whole life. From the time I was little, and I would take paper lunch sacks and put little shoestring handles on them and decorate them with crayons and have them be little gift bags, to now where I sew pretty much my own wardrobe completely. The only thing I haven't made yet are socks. So I'm a knitter, I'm a crocheter, I'm an embroiderer, but I'm primarily a garment sewist. Someday I'll get to socks, but they've been a little intimidating. I'm going to be honest with you, because they're so small, right? They take so long, and I'm trying to slow down my process and enjoy the process even more, which is part of the reason why I want to talk to people on this podcast who have taken the time to master what they're doing. Because I think mastery comes with a slowing down and a focus that I don't always take with my own projects. Sometimes when I'm doing my own projects, I'm just like a horse to the barn, right? As fast as I can. I only have this much time. I have to do it now or I'll never get it done. And I rush through it. And that's not how I want to continue to live my life in any regard, but especially with my making. And so I want to explore that, not just to share that with you, but to like really cement it into my own body as well. This idea of slow it all down. And you may say that, all right, hold on, I've been following you for a while online. I know that you hand sew some of your clothing. That's slow. And it is, right? It totally is. But sometimes I have a plan to make something and I want to do all of these different beautiful hand stitches on it. And instead, I go right for the thing that I know is going to be quickest and easiest, even though I'm hand sewing, even though I'm doing it in a slow manner anyway. And so I want to break that habit I have and allow for more intentionality in what I make. Okay. So I was not always a garment sewist. I did not really start sewing clothing until I was in my late 20s. And I didn't really have a good reason for that. See, my grandmother was a seamstress, and she made formal dresses and doll clothes for all of our grandchildren. And she knit us scarves, and she knit us those little slippers. I don't know if you ever had one, but those little, actually, I think they were crocheted. These little crocheted slippers that had denim bottoms on them, like very thrifty, right? She'd take those old jeans and make little soles out of the jeans and then crochet the top out of some acrylic. Oh my gosh, that was really judgmental. If you like to knit or crochet with acrylic yarn, please do not take offense to this. I can be a little bit of a natural fiber snob, and I'm very sorry in advance if that's the case. But she used to crochet these little slippers for us out of acrylic yarn that she probably picked up at Walmart or some equivalent back then. And you know what? It's probably Ben Franklin. That's probably where she got it. Anyway, she used to crochet us all these little slippers that were just amazing because you put them on your feet on the cold, cold floor because we heated with a wood stove when I was growing up only. And it would just feel amazing to have that love hugging your little feet and making them warm until the bottoms wore through. And then you had the little blister on your feet where you were scuffling along. on your thick yarn and your holy denim bottoms. Anyway, my grandmother brought all this into my life, but I did not learn from her. And I didn't learn from my other grandmother either. My mom's mom. My mom's mom made beautiful quilts that she painted with acrylic paints. I believe that was acrylic paints. She would sketch out a design and she would make quilts and bags and things like that, from what I can remember, um, out of these sketch designs that she would then paint. But I didn't learn. Technically, I didn't learn from either of those women in my life. My grandmothers, both of them, died when I was 17. And so I never took the time when my grandmother, Marion, was busy making me formal dresses. She made all my formal dresses in high school with pins in her mouth and a cat laying on the pattern. And she would say to me, "You better pay attention because I'm not going to be around forever." And I didn't. I didn't pay attention because I was a teenager that had way too many things to do. I had too many friends to hang out with and too much fun to be had to sit down and work on a hobby like sewing, especially at that time of my life. And I always wish that I had, right? But in my late 20s, I was in a thrift store and I found this polyester mint green house dress. It was definitely from the 60s, maybe early 70s. And it fit me absolutely perfectly, which was an amazing feat at the time. I always felt like I had this strange body that I could not fit dresses on, which, if you know me now, is sort of insane because all I wear are dresses. I hate any fiddliness. I hate the feeling of like two pieces, like a skirt and a top or pants and a top. How like there's that fiddliness at the waist. Like I can't stand it. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I love the ease and simplicity of a dress. I love wearing leggings in a dress. I love that I could do kung fu if I wanted to at any moment. I have complete mobility because I only really wear knit clothing, quite honestly. And I love that I can run around and play and hike and do all the things I want to do wearing a dress and leggings. So it's really my uniform. Anyway, I digress. In my 20s, that was not the case. I was still wearing jeans that gave me a muffin top because they were ill-fitting and t-shirts and feeling rather frumpy about myself, quite honestly. So I found this dress, like the first dress ever in my life that fit me since my grandmother had passed away when I was 17, because I'm got this weird body, right? Little disclaimer here. I don't actually have a weird body. I just have a normal body. It's just a body, right? And now that I've been teaching sewing for, I don't know, a decade or so, I realize that we all feel like we have weird bodies. We all feel like we can't fit into what we find in the store or are frustrated that the size 8 that we tried on today, when we tried on a size 8 at a different store tomorrow, that 8 doesn't fit, but the other 8 did, right? And we realize the ludicrous nature of buying clothing and how the sizing is so arbitrary, and yet we put so much emotional weight on that size. So I found this dress and it fit me perfectly, and I was elated. There were 2 problems with it. A quick word from our sponsor. Our sponsor for this episode is My Lovely Muse. I asked Christina why she started her business, and here's what she had to say. As a former public school teacher, the learning piece is important to me. I hold workshops locally and virtually, specifically how to make your own beeswax wraps, including a complete kit that's available on my website, and local workshops and drop-in opportunities at markets to get your clothes mended or learn how to mend, among other things. Taking time to learn new skills to live a more earth-conscious life makes this lifestyle sustainable in the long run. And for those who don't feel that they have the time to commit to learning a new skill, I still provide handcrafted products for you to purchase to help you journey toward a more sustainable lifestyle. Because let's be honest, in our modern world, we might not always have the time to dedicate to new hobbies, and that is something us makers can relate to. You can find more at mylovelymuse.com. And back to our show. There were 2 problems with it. One, I already mentioned I'm a bit of a fiber snob, and so it was made from polyester, like old polyester, the kind of polyester that makes you smell pungent very quickly. And it was a mint green, which there's nothing wrong with mint green. It was a beautiful color, but it totally washed me out and did not make me feel vibrant in that way. But it made me feel amazing in how it fit me. And I loved to imagine as well, because I love like the magic or the energy that we put into the things that we have. So I like to imagine this other woman that would walk around in my town who had my body, right? Or something close to my body, because this dress fit me to a T. And so it was also handmade. And so somebody had made it for themselves and it fit them to a T. And I just thought, it just brought me such glee, such joy to imagine somebody walking around with my body wearing this dress and hopefully like having just the most beautiful life. So I bought this dress and I loved it. I didn't love the color and I didn't love the fabric. So one day I decided, you know what? I've used a sewing machine before. In my early 20s, I had covered a couch at one point. I'd made pillows, I'd made bags, and a quilt, giant queen size quilt, the only quilt I've ever made. I'm sorry for all the quilters out there. Quilting is not, does not ring my bell, but it was fun to make. And I still have that quilt and I do love it. And I'll love it for the rest of my life. And it probably will be the only quilt I ever make, honestly. So I got out my sewing machine and I took out some newspaper and I took that dress and I thought, how hard can this be? It was a simple fit and flare dress. And it was a knit polyester. I want you to know that. So I laid that dress on the newspaper and I sketched around the dress to make a pattern. I had seen patterns before. My grandmother had shown me patterns when she made dresses for me. So like I had some kind of osmosis knowledge of patterns, right? I'd never really used one though. And so I cut it out. I found this beautiful quilting cotton at my Joann Fabrics here in town. And I cut out my pattern on that quilting fabric. Now, if you are anyone who knows anything about fabric, you know that a knit fabric and a cotton quilting fabric, which is woven, are not interchangeable. One stretches and one does not. And so this dress had no zippers, it had no buttons, it had no closures of any kind because it stretched and you pulled it over your head and it stretched your body like a t-shirt, right? Quilting cotton doesn't stretch at all. So I sewed up this dress. I was so excited. And I went to try it on, and it, of course, didn't quite fit. I mean, I squeezed into it, and I could squeeze into it enough that I could wear it. And it was enough to make me so excited and so proud of that dress. Yeah, I couldn't eat a whole lot when I was wearing the dress. It was pretty tight around the waist. It was definitely tight in the bust. But I made it. I made it. I liked how it looked on me. It fit my body. Well, it fit my body fairly well if you didn't do things like breathe, right? But it was the beginning of a love affair of making clothing for my own body. And that process not only helped me to like really embrace a new hobby, right? And embrace new skills. I've always loved to dive in and learn about new things, but it gave me a new love for the body that I have, whatever that body looks like. And it gave me this new understanding, this deep, deep understanding that what I buy in the store means nothing. What size it is means nothing. There's no standard sizing in the store. There's no standard sizing either in patterns, to be honest. But it gave me the ability to like reduce that pattern sizing down, that clothing sizing down to what my body actually was, with the measurements of my actual body wear and to map that out. It also gave me a way for those sort of nerdy people out there to marry my analytical numbers kind of brain with my creative side. And you don't have to have that numbers kind of brain to be a sewist. Like you can be just creative and you can work that out and be happy and love that process too. But for me, pattern drafting in particular, and really fine-tuning the fit with the numbers allowed me to bring both my numbers brain and my creative brain together in this most beautiful way. But the biggest thing, again, is that it allowed me to love the body that I have right now. And it allowed me to dress it in a way that both fit the body I have. And I know that you know that this is true, but when you have clothing that fits your body well, there's like nothing that's more flattering than a really good fit. And there's nothing that's more flattering than a really good fit that you love, right? So you have a style that you adore. You get to know yourself even better. And so you get to strut around town in this dress or these pants or these clothing, whatever it might be. that fit not only your body, but your style. And so this has become a passion of mine. And I, to this day, 15 years later, or something like that, let's not count exactly, have a wardrobe that is almost completely made by me. Because even when I decide, you know what, I'm going to buy something that somebody else has even made, just to, like, support somebody else. And I don't have to make all the things, for crying out loud. And I know that you understand how that feels as well. Even when I do that, I'm always a bit discouraged because it isn't made for my body. So it's tight on the bust and it's loose in the waist and it's tight on the hips. And because I'm not standard, because none of us are standard. I teach classes all the time. And almost every time we have to grade between sizes on the pattern. We have to consider their body and really work through the pattern in a way that says, all right, this is a starting point, but now we're going to take your measurements and we're going to fine tune it to be what your body actually is so that we have such a better chance of this fitting you and you adoring what it is, right? That's like the technical step of it. And then the beautiful step of it is you get to pick what fabric you want and you get to pick how tight it is or how loose it is, just naturally, like how you want it to feel on you, what the style of it is. Like, it's an amazing process. You don't have to be a sewist to get that. But I do encourage everybody that I talk to and that I teach to really start to get to know themselves. And when you get to know yourselves, you choose things in your life that actually fit your life. And you choose things in your life that actually make you feel more alive instead of feeling frumpy or like you're not enough. Because you know what? Those pants and that dress, they don't have any right to make you feel less than ever. But they do have the power to shift your emotions, or rather to support your emotions, right? They can either drag you down because they're frumpy, ill fitting, and not right for you. And so they just become like proof that you're not enough in some way, which is ridiculous. But we all do that. Or they have the ability to support the person that you are inside, to support who you want to be in life. So if you feel amazing on them, it's going to help support you feeling amazing in life. Clothing can sort of feel frivolous at times, right? Like, it's just clothes. Who cares? And there's a truth to that. But there's also the truth to the fact that the things that you choose to bring into your life, the things that you choose to wear on your body are going to impact how you're feeling about yourself and how you're feeling about the world. And sewing your own clothing can shift that. So I spent the last decade really diving into fine-tuning fit and fine-tuning pattern drafting and fine-tuning who I am as a person. And that whole journey, that whole process has led me to live this more vibrant life that I want everyone to experience. Not my life, your life more vibrantly, your path more vibrantly. And it's really why I teach, quite honestly. Like, one, I want women to sew clothing that they love, but ultimately, I want to empower people to feel like they have more control in their lives than they think. They have more ability to shift what their life feels like and to shift how they experience their life than we think we do. We can't really control at all our circumstances, right? Like, I just had an autoimmune disorder for the last 4 months that left me house ridden. And I had to really swim through those dark waters of who am I now that I can't make? Who am I now that I can't hardly dress myself or wash my own hair? Like, am I worthy? Am I a worthy human because I can't do these things? And I had to sit with that and I had to be in that dark space for as long as it took to come out of it and realize that I still have value. I still have worth. And my experience, whether I'm in pain or not, is my own. And I get to dictate to some degree, to a great degree, actually, what that experience feels like, what that experience looks like. And making on so many levels helps me on that process. It brings out those abilities. It brings out that sense of, I can do this, whatever this is. I'm capable. And I can choose what my experience is. I think the key to life really is to live in your passion, to really follow your joy in your heart. And that doesn't mean you can do that 100% of the time in every aspect of your life. But I think the more that you can bring your life into that focus, the more you can shift your life to be pointing more directly towards the things that bring you joy, the more happiness and deep-seated ease we'll have in life. I think there's so much that debilitates us in life that comes from us not honoring what brings us joy. And I think that when we follow what brings us joy, we give other people permission to follow what brings them joy too. And it isn't always easy, right? It can sometimes look, selfish or feel like, who am I to choose a job that makes me happy, that might pay a little bit less? Who am I to not do things for other people that they want, even though I don't really want to do them? And what I really want to do is X, Y, and Z. Who am I to choose myself over that, right? We have this sense of like, the more giving of yourself you are to other people, the better human you are. But I believe that, and we've all heard this, we've heard it in a million different memes on social media, right? We've heard our grandmothers say it. We've heard people in the later years of their life tell us this, but we don't pay as much attention to it, I don't think, as we should, or some of us don't. Is the idea that we can't possibly fill up somebody else's cup if our own cup is empty. And it sounds like, oh, yeah, I hear you. But, I have this, and this. But the more that we can shift and honor ourselves, and I think it's really a deep sense of feeling like we're not worthy of having or doing the things that we love to do. Like that life has to be hard, or that life has to be a struggle. And if we could really embrace the idea that, what if we opened up to our own joy and we tried to do things in that space all the time, or most of the time, or 10% of the time? What if we opened up to the idea that we could then become an even brighter, beautiful version of ourselves, and we would have so much more to offer everybody else in our worlds? What if we were brave enough to believe that to be true? And I know that a podcast about making inherently doesn't seem like that's where we're going with it, but it is. It is where we're going with it, because there's something about makers, first of all, that I love and adore. It's who I want to talk to. But there's also something about making something and having that sense of belief that you are capable and that you can do it. And you look at something and you think, I could do that. And maybe it takes you only having the courage to do the first little step and know that the next little step is going to come. Or maybe it's the ability to like, yeah, I totally have this. But I think that that energy can serve us in our life all the way around. And I think that once you have that opened up in some vein, like making, that it becomes more possible to bring into the rest of your life. And so that's kind of where we're going to go with this. And I'm excited you're here. Well, that's our show for today, and I want to thank you for spending your time with me. I don't take that lightly. I know there are a lot of places you can spend your time and energy, like, making something. Maybe you made something while you listened to this podcast. Fantastic. I hope that's the case. But either way, I'm so glad that you're here. And would you do me a favor? Would you jump on your favorite podcast listening platform and subscribe? And then when you've done that, leave me a review as well. Reviews are the best way for me to reach new people, and I want to reach more people. I want to have deep conversations with all of you makers out there. So if you can help me, I would appreciate it. All right, have yourself a lovely day and share what you're making. This episode of the In Kinship podcast was brought to you by My Lovely Muse. My Lovely Muse strives to live in harmony with our earth by exchanging disposable housewares for more sustainable alternatives. Through the conscious process of planning a design, selecting natural and organic materials, and careful construction, My Lovely Muse provides a line of eco-conscious housewares and eco-educational workshops to help make the shift to a more sustainable lifestyle easier. Check them out at mylovelymuse.com.